A few moments later.
Well, that's been a problem ever since I installed the new CV40 carburetor. It had an electric choke and it was leaking, so I disabled the choke, and lately it just hasn't been starting very good. Once it gets warmed up, it runs great, but bottom line, even in Hawaii, the carburetor needs a choke. So to fix this problem, rather than trying to keep the electric choke, I've got a mechanical choke for the carburetor I'm going to attempt to install. Choke cable's really short, so I have an additional choke cable. We're going to try to splice them together to have the control up front and the choke working. So let's try this. Alright, once we get in here, we have our glorious CV40 carburetor. As you can see, she's getting a little dirty since we put her in new. A little corrosion around the edges, but it's still running. This is where the automatic choke should be, but I was trying to adjust it when I got it. It was just dumping fuel and not working quite right, and I ended up breaking it. So I just have the choke disabled all the way, but we're gonna pull this out and try to put in the manual choke and see how this goes. To get this out of here, there's just a single Phillips screw right there that we need to pull out, and then this clamp kind of comes off with everything and it just pulls straight out. And then that clamp is right around there. Alright, here's the deal. This is the old choke. The mechanical choke, or the electric choke solenoid was right here, and unfortunately I accidentally broke it off. So I ended up just cutting this off and putting a screw in there to permanently disable the choke for a while. And how this choke works is it's not actually a choke, it's a fuel enrichener. So when the solenoid or the cable pulls, it pulls this little plunger back and allows an extra channel in the carburetor to open and fuel to enter right into the carburetor without having to get drawn through the other orifices of the carburetor. So typically this was on a thermostat, but there really wasn't any reliable way to hook up the thermostat without some work in the van there. So I'm gonna try to modify it with this mechanical choke for a similar carburetor that is just a push-pull choke. And as you can see, the end, when you pull it, pulls that little plunger back in a similar way. Now this one's slightly shorter than the other one. Hopefully it's just a different way of making it. It has the same diameter and seal in there. But the current problem is this thread does not thread into the carburetor, but it's a very similar size to this one. So I'm gonna attempt to kind of merge them together. Might need some glue. We'll find out. So let's start off. I'm just gonna take the screw out. Yours shouldn't have this if you're coming from an electric choke. You might just need to cut it to get it apart. Mine was actually glued together. That's how I ended up breaking it. And there is a spring inside of here, so just watch that when you take it out. There's that spring inside of there. There's a little burr there. And there is the old choke actuator. Now this is the part that actually holds it in the carburetor, so I need to figure out a way to merge this one with this. I'm gonna go ahead and see how this fits in there. Not quite that tight. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to secure that in there. I just washed them out, make sure they're completely dry. Okay, the glue's probably not fully dry yet, but I just preliminary put the cable back in there. It's looking pretty good. You can see we have the little plunger. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shot here and see what happens. I just preliminary have it in there. Obviously we're gonna be modifying the throttle cable as well, but let's see what happens. I was gonna use this throttle cable from Amazon here, but it's not quite long enough to run all the way up front, and it's pretty solid. I don't think it's gonna make the bends all too great. So this is pretty much just bike cable. I'm gonna try to go get some more bike cable and see if maybe I can just splice in a longer piece here. So I went down to the local bike shop and I just picked up 14 feet of inner cable, 14 feet of outer housing. Ran me about 50 bucks for both of them. But pretty much I'm just going to try to extend this cable and make it go from the front to the back rather than messing with this big heavy duty cable that's too short. So I can already tell the crimped end of the bike cable is not quite going to fit in the plunger here. The crimp's too big, or the lead piece there, so I'm gonna go ahead and grind that down a little bit to help it fit in there. That needs to fit into there. So the next step I did here is I ran the outer housing of the choke cable, and pretty much I just found the throttle cable here and followed it all the way back. There's a couple clamps that I could just double up and put the cable in with the throttle cable, and I'm gonna add a couple zip ties. But yeah, we're looking underneath here and I just followed it through. There's a little extra right here, and just made sure it was all on the carrier all the way to the front of the van. And then once we got up to the front, I didn't even have to drill a hole. I just ran it up to the same hole the throttle cable is going through. And I'm thinking we'll put the choke right in one of these. Flat spot right here is actually designed to go in this empty spot right to the left of the steering wheel. So we're gonna try to knock that out and actually go for that one there, and I think it's gonna fit in real nicely. Then you can hold the choke with one hand and crank it with the other hand if you have to. I ended up just popping this bottom off. It has those plastic rivets. A couple of them broke, so I have to get new ones when I put it back together. But I just kind of used a drill bit and drilled out around the preset edges for the choke here, and it fits in there real nicely now. The choke cables run up here. I kind of popped this out to help access it, and ran it up around there and over top of the steering column. It's right here now. So next step, we need to modify this one to put the longer cable in. Now this is going to be a little more difficult here, but pretty much we need to cut this off and then somehow recrimp a new one on here. So we'll see how this goes. So I couldn't get the drill bit started, so I cut off a little more of the crimped area, and I actually found a spot that there is no cable in yet, and there's already a little hole. So I'm going to try to just drill that a little deeper if I have to. I'm going to see how deep it is first. Well, we got it hooked up here. There's a little bit of measuring, cutting the inside, but I ended up not cutting the sheath at all, just the cable a couple inches. I used all 14 feet of the sheath here. Got a little help from Oliver.
Supervisor.
Got the finished choke put in right here. There's just a little bit of play in the cable, which is nice, but you gotta hold it when you start, and then once you start you can just push it back in. So should help start it up a lot. Now it's a brand new day. I've left the car sitting all night. Let's go ahead and try to cold start it and see how it does with the new choke. I couldn't really get an accurate comparison yesterday just because I've been running it and everything, and before, once I started it and it warmed up, it would start fine. So hopefully she runs good. I would say that is a massive improvement. If this video helped you out at all with your K-truck or van or whatever, or just watching for fun, and you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, leave a comment down below. If you're working on something, need some help, I'm always there. Make sure to subscribe for more. Thanks.